Hello and welcome to day 78 of Dungeon 23. Today we're going to be using, finally, a new monster. Although, as a monster, he's not really going to be like an antagonist per se, but it's going to give the party an opportunity to have an optional combat, to maybe trade a little bit. Maybe do like a mission or a mini quest or side quest or something like that. And it will change depending on whether or not the party has taken down the barrier. So let us quickly sketch out our room so that way we could actually get to what we're going to do. Alrighty, so here is our room. As you can see, it does have a bit sectioned off from here, but you could also get in through down this way, which we'll put this room here probably tomorrow. I just wanted to put it here because I wanted to have a big area here. So what are we actually going to put on both these sides? Well, this guy is going to be pretty simple. We're going to use some more rust monsters. Maybe just one. And let's see here. Monstrosities? Yeah, here we are. Boom. Just a regular rust monster. Have him wandering around down here. And down here, we're going to first put down a little campfire. Because a guy is going to have set up camp here. Let's just put this on the map layer. Now, what is the guy who set up camp here? He is going to be a Dwergar. If you don't know what a Dwergar is, I will explain. So a Dwergar, or the Dwergar, are kind of an offshoot of dwarves. Well, they are dwarves, but the way they work is that they were, of course it always depends, I changed his tint a little bit because he has horns on his helmet because it's a dwarf, and I just wanted to make it be visible. Anyway, the important thing is that Dwergar are a kind of subspecies, subrace of dwarves, and their story, at least in the Forgotten Realms, which is basically the default setting, which is what you typically go off of because it's what the lore in the monster manual dictates, is that they were just regular dwarves, or they were maybe even like kind of a sub. Maybe they had their own magic, maybe they were always a different like sub-race of dwarves, maybe not. That's a bit unclear. The important thing to know is that they dug into the Underdark, and if you spend any time in the Underdark, you're going to run into some mind flayers. And if you run into some mind flayers, you're eventually going to get enslaved by mind slayers. And because they're mind flayers, eventually one of their slave races is going to rise up against them. Because, frankly, mind flayers suck. They're not very, they're not as cool. Well, they're very, very cool. They're not as competent as their coolness would suggest. It's kind of like the Worf effect, where mind flayers are a very, very, like, powerful threat. So to show that another race is powerful is to have them trounce on the mind flayers. Also, having mind flayers be in their backstory is just more of an excuse to give them psychic powers. Now, I'm not sure whether it's technically psionics or just an innate ability or if it's magic. I lean towards more psionics because it fits into their background, but also I really like the idea of like innate dwarven magic and like, you know, like more so traditional folklore where this is like Furbolg magic of that race has, where it's just this thing that this creature could do. And what Dwergar have is, of course, the ability to turn invisible, which they share with the Furbolgs, which they're actually, thinking about them, they are quite similar. It could be that the Dwergar are based on a similar real-life folklore creature as are the Furbolgs. Although Furbolgs are not really a folklore creature as it is a folklore race of actual humans. Like they're a fictionalized version of like a real people that exist or have existed. I don't know. I'm losing track here. The important thing is that they have access to magic. One of them is that they could turn invisible for a brief time. Another one they have is that for 1 minute they could increase their size from a medium creature, although they are shorter than humans, from, you know, because they're dwarves, but they could change from a medium creature to a large creature. So this guy could just double or technically quadruple in size because square cube law. You could become really big, and it's basically a enlarge spell effect, and that lasts for a minute. I don't believe it is concentration, but I do know, and I'm pretty sure, that they cannot be in sunlight when they do it, which is weird because they have a lot of things going on for them. You know, they're dwarves, but also they're psychic sometimes. But like this has like a semblance of shadow magic, and they also like behave a lot like Furbolgs, and they have like that ancestral magic. It's a whole like interesting thing. Anyway, so why are you putting a Dwergar here? Well, one, it's just a fun creature that's fun to use, and I haven't used it personally, so I might actually use it going forward and something. And two, I have a really fun idea for what he can do. So let us name this guy, and let's name him Rufus. Rufus. No, how do you spell Rufus? Well, we're gonna spell it that way. Rufus the U-E-R, the Dwergar. Give him a nameplate. And let's give this guy his backstory slash mission slash side quest slash whatever he's doing here. Alright, so here we have our Dwergar. So his name is Rufus, like we said. Rufus the Dwergar doesn't know exactly how or why or even when he entered the dungeon, but he wants to stay here because there's rust monsters, and Rufus knows how to make something that he considers to be world famous. His world famous rust monster chili. He cooks them up into a chili because that's funny. If the party has killed one or assists him in killing the one that's, you know, right here, assuming, of course, the thing closes, he will offer to cook it for the party. If he kills one on his own, he can offer to sell the party a bowl for 15 gold pieces. a party member can make a DC 19 persuasion check to convince him to share the recipe, or they could just buy it from him from, 200 gold pieces, which is quite a lot, and they probably won't have as much now, but they could come back for it later, obviously. Or maybe he shows up deeper in the dungeon, making a DC 17 cook's utensils, which is like the tools to make food, which people don't really take because they just say, oh, we take rations, or we stop at a tavern, people don't really care too much about the food quality in D&D, but maybe they should. Making that check will allow them to basically reverse engineer the recipe and be able to make it themselves without having to actually look at the recipe itself. Now, I forgot to put this down here, but one rust monster can be made into 1d4 plus 1 bowls of rust monster chili eating the chili as an action gives the creature eating it plus 1 to their AC for 1 hour. I'm not going to give it a downside. Maybe if they fail, then it decreases their AC by 1 for an hour after the fact. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so one rust monster could make basically 1d4 plus 1 servings of this rust monster chili. And eating the chili as an action, because, it's like a potion, gives the creature eating it a plus 1 to their AC for an hour. Which is basically decreasing the chance of getting hit by 5%, which may not seem like a lot, but, if you have an AC of, well, let's see here. If you're heavy armor for, 17 AC, and then you take, the ceremony, if you get married with ceremony, your AC increases by 2, so that's 19, and then you get, some plus 1 armor. You get, the 20 just by eating this stuff. It's pretty good. But it only lasts an hour, and there's a finite amount of rust monsters in the area. And also, you could only benefit from it once. That should go without saying. You can't have repeat effects, and that's basically in the rules already, although how that works is kind of up in the air. Because there's some creatures that give status effects that you think would be able to stack, like Strength Drain, but they may not actually. It's all stupid, and frankly, rules as written is stupid, and rules as intended is also stupid. Because, frankly, 5th edition isn't the best. But, for a weird reason. I don't know. Anyway, so, this is what this guy does. This is what the chili does. And let's also give him a chest with some basic supplies in it. Let's see here. There we are. So, the chest has a bunch of torches because, he has to build a campfire somehow. A tinderbox because he has to actually start it somehow. An iron ingot that's engraved with the word bait because I think that's really funny. That he just has this giant, bar of iron that he uses as bait. A bunch of wooden bowls because obviously he makes chili. Cook's utensils, which is, he's a cook. Of course you'd have those. And a small pouch of spices, which is worth 20 gold pieces, because it's, spices are valuable. But also, it decreases the DC of cook's utensils by 2. So, basically, if you want to make the chili, and you basically add these spices, it makes it easier to pass the DC by lowering it. Not really giving advantage. Anyway, so if it's anything you want to cook, for the most part. It's just really good spices, and they're valuable. So you could try robbing them. and he could be a tough fight, he could not be. Not entirely sure because I haven't run him super well, or haven't run Dwergar, but I feel like it'd be a fun encounter. Not just because it's mechanically interesting, but because it's really fun to have this little roleplay aspect to a... Well, they're not underappreciated because they did appear in like Critical Role a lot, but really actually they're lawful evil typically, which I have mixed feelings about things being evil by nature, but I typically don't do it, or would rather, I like to have like the opposite for the most part because I think it's more interesting that way. It's a fun subversion. But then again, remember, if all you're doing is subversion, everything turns to crap. So, with that life lesson out of the way, I believe that's all we're going to do today. I might put down some doors. Let me put down some doors really quick. Yeah, and this should be basically everything. So let's put down some doors. Oh. Gonna shrink this guy down. Just copy and paste it. So that way I don't have to resize it constantly. Actually, this guy probably wouldn't have a door. It'd probably get eaten, kind of. Or have an unlocked door, or a door that doesn't have a hinge or whatever. Yeah, because its hinges would be eaten off, so there's just not going to be a door in that section. But yeah, this has been day 78. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. All that crap. And I apologize for the poor quality. It's not going to get any better.